So this room we're calling the parlor. This is one of the formal rooms at the front of the house. So when we were looking at the house, this was the room on the right. And we'll spin around and we'll show you the project that's going to happen in this room. So as you can see, another fireplace that has been opened up. The paneling over here, which is actually, there's a door and there's a closet right there, which I'll show you in a second. All of that same style paneling would have gone all the way over to the other wall. Again, not sure why it was removed and that structure was put up there, but that structure is all coming down. We will reframe around the fireplace. We will reframe that doorway and that transition into the other room. We will carry this wainscoting across to the other side, so that will be part of it over there. But this would, I should talk about, before we go too much further, let's talk about the floors. It's hard to see in here, and this light. It might be better in another room. But I just want you to notice how wide those boards are. Some of the boards in this house, they're 19 inches or just over 19 inches, which is large for floorboards. You can't get, well, you still can get timber, not new stuff. You could get reclaimed timber that's this wide. And the floors they don't look great here because it's got sheetrock dust on it. But the floors are in pretty decent shape. There's some in the kitchen, there's some dings that need to be replaced, but they're not too bad. And the hearths aren't too bad around the fireplaces either. But let's talk about this woodwork. So 4 panel doors, each, the panels are here, raised panels. This, I did say that this is a door. This goes out to the front hallway, which we'll get out there in a minute. And very typical of this era of a home, there's a small closet here, another one below it, and on the right side of the fireplace over here, there would have been another closet. Not very deep, as you can tell, because the bricks are right there, but there would have been another closet there. And yes, if we look through this wall, that is the stairway that leads upstairs. So we'll get there in a second when we come around the other side. So this fireplace will get rebuilt. We don't plan on using the fireplace for firewood, mainly because the firebox is not deep enough. When they were built 400 years ago, they were much smaller. It was built specifically to push heat out into the room, so the fire would have been very close to the room. You see that the bricks for the hearth come way out into the room because the fire, typically today if we built a fire, we would build it back closer to the wall. In the 17th century, the fires were built further out, and that was so the heat actually came out into the room. If we do anything with this fireplace, there'll be a stove insert, wood burning stove will be in there. Same thing in the kitchen. As much as I would love to restore that fireplace to a cooking fireplace, it just can't happen. The chimneys aren't lined. They'd have to be lined. There's a lot of work that has to be done on the chimney. We did, so you can see, by the way, I remember I talked about the size of the chimney. So you see how it sort of, it follows the curve up. This is the widest point over here. And the rest of it, if you remember, is through that wall into the kitchen. So it's probably a good 20 feet wide at this point. This is towards the base. Now it goes all the way into the basement. And it was only about maybe 3 feet wide at the top. So it's called a beehive fireplace because it's round. It's hard to tell from this, but we'll be able to see when we start up the stairs going to the second floor. All right, so this is the parlor. Again, plastered ceilings, which really would have been the case. These would have been the formal rooms in the house, so that's why there's the paneling on the walls, the wainscoting, the paneling around the fireplaces, and the plastered ceilings. These would have been the very formal rooms. You would have come in the front door, you would have been brought into this room, into the parlor where you would be greeted, and you would remain in here. The working parts of the house would have been very simple, and they'll be returned to that very simple style as well. We have a few issues with the floor in here. There's some dings, there's some, well, those are more than dings actually, those are actual holes. in the floorboards. And there are ways to fix those. That's one of the things that we're going to do. The kitchen is going to get redesigned. We're still working on that. We're going to move some windows, as these are not original windows. So we're going to move these windows. Okay, it's a 17th century house. We're going to take a hit for this, but we're going to live here. We're modern 21st century people. The kitchen needs to be, we're not going to cook on the open hearth as much as we would like to. So it's going to be a modern kitchen. There's going to be a refrigerator. There's a stove. There's a dishwasher. There's probably going to be a microwave oven. I know that may be anathema to some of you who are purists in this type of construction, but we're the ones that are going to live here. So it is what it is, right? All right, I'm just going to quickly show you the bathroom. This is all going to get gutted and redone, but the full bath is on the first floor, and there is a half bath on the second floor, which is an upgrade from our house now because we only have one bathroom. So there's a half bath up on the second floor. All right, through this door is the dining room. Now this is a very interesting room. Now I can show you what the complete fireplace looks like. So there's a complete fireplace with a mantle. Now I learned recently, and I'm not sure how gospel this is, that because there's a mantle, it gets plastered around the rest of it. Where the fireplace in the pictures that we have, and I'll post, we have some older photos before the wall went up. The original parlor fireplace did not have a mantle, and so the woodwork went all the way up to the ceiling around it. Because this has a mantle, it gets plastered. But typically, as is the other ones, you can see how far out the hearth comes. This is a much deeper firebox on this side, and there's the closet again. This one we can actually open because there's no stud wall, and you can see inside. So there's one there, and then there's another one down below. So lots of use of space. There was space, there were voids in the wall because of the chimney, and so they were used for closets, because what else would you use them for? There's no sense in really sealing up that space. A lot of original hardware. These are called H or strap hinges. Here, you can see, if you look closely, you can see the forge marks on them. And then on the door over here, these are H and L brackets, because you can see the H and the L. And these were typically used where there would be something that was much heavier that needed more support. And an original lock set here that still functions. And then you see the knob on the other side. Now, another interesting feature of this room are the bricks that you see in the wall. Now, the cross bracing, that's part of the post and beam construction, but there's other boards that run. There's some thinner ones that run right there, which is where the wood nailers. So originally, this room would have looked much like the parlor. These walls would have been plastered. But what's interesting are the bricks. So there's some question as to whether this was a garrison house, which would have been used for protection. So back in the day, there weren't many houses here in Hull. And you had to protect yourself from your neighbors, I guess, but also from the native population. So garrison houses were created for protection. And it may have only been one room, but the women and children would have come here. There would have been shutters on the inside windows. They would have closed the shutters. And the bricks in the walls would have been to prevent arrows or gunfire or what else, musket fire, to come through the walls. So the guess is that those bricks run pretty much from the ceiling to the floor. We have no idea if the same pattern exists in the parlor because the walls are plastered, and we're not going to take that down. You can see modern heating. Several phases of heating. There was at one point forced hot air. That's why there's a hole there in the floor, and it's gone to this now forced hot water radiator system. And because the bricks are in the wall, the electrical is on the outside. So we have exterior electrical here. So I mentioned earlier that this is a center chimney cape, a full cape, 2 windows on each side of a main front door. There's the front door. from the outside, it looks just like a one solid board, which was very typical of the time period. There would have been a solid door, which really would have been a storm door. It would have remained open in the summertime and closed in the wintertime to protect from the elements. And the family would have used the back door, and guests would have used this front door, which if they knew you were coming, they would have opened that door. But there's a very interesting feature in this room that we need to just, well, there's a couple of interesting features. So the door straight ahead of us is the door that was behind the wall in the parlor. So you would come in the front door and there was a door going in either direction. Now, one of the things I want to show you is the doorbell system that's up here. They work. But if you notice, there's a string that attaches to the bell that runs through that eye hook and down the wall and through a hole through this plate right here and outside where the pull is. So you would pull that and it would ring the bells, and then that's how you know someone was at the door.